Finally. So for the beginning, let's have a look at some little statistics about this tsunami of AI. Let's see how the traffic in ChatGPT changed by month. And you can see from November 22, it's increased by how many? About like 25 times. And obviously, ChatGPT became the second app that was that have achieved 100 million users. It took 2 months. In comparison to other social medias, it's quite fast. Now, we also recently we can see that people started using ChatGPT not just for technical things. People are using it also for real life issues. For example, I personally use it for different therapist replacement every day. It can be therapist, insightful guidance, emotional support, etc. And we can see that within the last 5 years, amount of people who are using it increased in 7 times. It can also cause different ethical issues, but we are going to leave it for Sam Altman to deal with it. Hopefully, our data is not been leaked anywhere. And all of other child traumas, let's call it, yeah? And there is another very interesting statistic. So we can see that when COVID-19 started, it was peak for using StackOverflow, and within years, when ChatGPT launched, we can see huge gradient going down. Yes, so maybe it will die within years. And as we know, all of the modules been trained on entire data. So StackOverflow may die someday.
And what period of time is it?
It is like 5 years period, yeah. Well, even more, like 15 years period. Because we can see it's like, what is it? Thought. And research shows that within the last 5 years, the average prompt length increased by how many? By basically 5 times. And we can also see that depending on the expertise, from non-technical people to advanced technical people, it varies from 8 words per prompt till 32. And now you can think for yourself, maybe you will have answer by the end of this speech, if the length of the prompt depends on how verbose people became within the last couple of years, or it just people started to understand better how these LLM and AI models work. So let's see evolution of prompting. So in December 2022, our new ChatGPT era began, and then we started half a year later, started thinking about new approaches of prompting, there were a lot of videos on YouTube, how to get better emails, how to get better results, etc. Now, moving to last year, March 2024, we started giving advanced context, and in half a year ago, in December 2024, we already moved to multi-modal prompting, and now, in May 2025, what we are thinking about, we are obviously thinking about agentic prompting frameworks. Yes, so while I was preparing this presentation, it was like 4 days ago, 3 days ago, OpenAI dropped their guide on how to use agents. Yesterday, Gaurav provided amazing presentation on his agents platform. So we can see we are slowly moving from just general questions, general prompts, to agentic prompts and agentic frameworks. Let's quickly go through the way how regular models work in comparison to thinking models. Yes, so we all know, we spent amazing 5.5 weeks here, so we know that for models to work, we just input, we get token processing, and we get some specific output for regular models. And we can see it's working pretty fast, it's token efficient, but in terms of reasoning, it may be glitchy. When we are talking about thinking models, there are a lot of hidden processes. Again, this is all just simplification. Yes, so this is planning, decomposition of the problem, going back, revising it, working step by step on it. And again, it leads to latency. Yeah, so it can take longer to process, like 5, 10 seconds, sometimes even minutes, but at least it's working more efficient, let's say. Yeah, so this is example Gemini 2.5 reasoning. It was supposed to be Gemini 2.5 Flash. Pro, sorry. And now, again, quick summary of how regular with thinking models working. Yeah, so again, regular models, they process tokens sequentially, and for thinking models, they're what? They are reasoning before they answer. Yeah, so in many of the applications, you can now click on the button thinking, and you can see all of this process, how it loops over your prompt and your request. And again, there are quite a few models that you can use. Most popular ones from OpenAI and Anthropic. Recently, there were new hybrid models dropped, 4.5, 3.7 from Anthropic, and Gemini 2.5 Pro Experimental. So what does hybrid model mean? So in case we are talking, for example, about Claude, you have this toggle that allows you to what? To turn on or turn off thinking mode. There are also other models such as research models, but again, it's just a different topic. We are talking about simpler things today. Yeah. So also these three companies are main companies that are working with prompting, with AIs, LLMs. Let's quickly see what else you can use. For example, Alibaba family. Yes. So they provide. Yeah, they provide quite a few different models. DeepSeek, of course, French Mistral, Elon Musk's Grok, and of course, Llama family that we are currently working on. To be honest, when I was preparing the presentation, I did not know that this week we would be working on Llama, so this is just pure coincidence. Now, the most interesting part. Can we do something with our X? Yeah, so please raise your hand up, or who's ever had, let's say, glow down or issues when dealing with breakup. No one. No one besides me. Yeah, of course, many of us did, yeah? So, what do we usually do when we are going through breakup? You usually go to our devices, we are going to text our friends, our families, looking for some information on internet, trying to figure out how to deal with this. Not the most wonderful emotions and feelings. Yeah, so what could we actually do? We could open ChatGPT and ask, how do I get over painful breakup? And the output that we would get could be difficult time, you should stay alone, blah, 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 blah. This is pretty much a simple approach, how we can use ChatGPT or any other LLM to deal with emotionally difficult periods in your life. Now, let's see. What would be the prompt looking like? Yeah, so I have provided two examples. So first one, in case if you have some communication issues, again, it's working pretty well. Another one, to get over breakup. Now, let's see what's happening in this prompt. We can see it's quite direct, providing simple question format. But again, there is no context. There is no specifications, what you want to get the output. There is no role definition. We're going to jump to what the role definition is just in a couple of seconds. And I'm providing an example from Claude 3.7. That's the output that you would get for these two prompts. Now, keep in mind the length of this output. What is role-based approach? Here, I refined it a bit. I don't know if you can see it. I hope you can see it. In the worst case, I'm going to leave the link for presentation. You can go over this again and link to all of the resources as well. Yeah, so at left, I'm saying you are therapist, you are working with nonviolent communication, you have some amount of years of experience, what I want to expect from you from this conversation, and the context, what I'm dealing with. Another thing for the second breakup example. There are some, let's say, difficult conversations. I have put 18 years of experience here. So some people might say, why exactly 18 years of experience? It usually means that you are, let's say, senior in terms of therapy. And some people are having arguments if it helps or if it does not. But again, the large amounts of years you put, usually model understands that it needs to act from points of experience. Now, let's see. We can see the output is a bit different. It highlights, again, I have cut it twice here. You can see it. So steps for dealing, the context, recommendations, etc. You can see it's absolutely another level in comparison to help me deal with communication issues or how do I get over breakup. Yeah, I understand. We are human beings. We have emotions. AIs don't. But sometimes it understands how we should deal with our emotions better than we do. And another thing, I was mentioning this word context quite a few times before. Why is it so important? So there is a very popular meme. This is, let's say, American show Wheel of Fortune. Do you know how it works? So basically, it's like a handman game. Yeah, when you are trying to figure out the letter, and then all other letters have been opened. So, and this is very popular meme, as I mentioned before, pretending it was a real situation in the show. And what do you think would be the output if you put it into any, let's say, Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT? Yeah. Let's see. I would be already open if it would be air.
Okay, so it has to be something else.
Yeah, it would be absolutely different answer.
What do you think it is?
We should check the logic before we get it. See what the model is doing.
Yeah, so yesterday Beth was telling us that in case if the model was taught on having bad words next to each other, then it's probably going to give us bad words back. Yeah, so you can figure out what it would be. F, M, and double S, yeah? I have spent a couple of hours trying to explain to the model that it should not be that thing. Then how did I manage to trick it? I used ChatGPT model 4.1. In case if I'm trying to pull just the screenshot there, it's going to give me, as I mentioned before, F, M, and double S. In case if I'm saying, look, this is American TV show, so please think of this as a show that has some constraints, restrictions on the way what words, lexic, etc. can be used. Yeah, so after, as you can see, 5 minutes, 25 seconds, it realized it cannot be those letters. So, like being in the arm tonight. Does it make any sense to you? I don't know, but seems to be correct. Now, let's imagine that we are working with RAG, and we want to learn more about this. Simple approach would be explain how this retrieval augmented generation and provide learning resources about it. Again, the same issues as before. It's direct, but there is no specific concept, no expectations, no structure, no role definition. And now let's see, how could we extend it? So I would like you to pay attention to the colors. I have used them on purpose. I will ask you to try to figure out why I have highlighted exactly those things with those colors. Actually, the color itself doesn't matter, but I mean pattern in the colors. So here we are saying there would be some specific expert with some PhD, with some years of experience. Yeah, you can say the drug was published just 5 years ago, and I'm asking about 8 years of experience. Let's keep that part. Now, I'm saying create comprehensive learning guide on topic. What I'm expecting from this. So first thing is role, second objective. Now context. Yeah, so we are saying that we are some kind of engineer who is familiar with some techniques, and we want to improve it and want to use exactly systems for production environments for 2025. Why year is important? For example, if we are talking about, let me quickly come up with an example. If we are talking about Django, please raise your hand up who has ever worked with Django. Not so many people. Yes, so let's, okay, so let's come up with another example, such as Python. Python has different versions, 3.9, 3.10, 3.11, 3.12, and recently 3.13 was dropped. And there are some restrictions, for example, when it comes to typing, custom typing, between 3.11, 3.12, and 3.13. So you need to define what year you are referencing to, so the model would understand what stack of technologies it's working with. And now, have a look at the instructions. Begin, explain, provide, include, highlight, keep content. And also the structure that we are expecting. Yes, so we want theoretical foundations, essential papers, implementation approaches, etc. And we also need to put examples of what question we can ask and the answers that we're expecting. Obviously, it's going to give you very larger answer, but at least we are providing the context what we need. And in notes, we are saying what to focus, what to maintain, balance, and provide. Yeah. Again, notes is not necessarily thin, but sometimes I personally like to put in notes, please provide your outputs with emojis for better visualization, because it's easier for me to learn information from emojis, etc. And now let's come back to the question that I was asking you earlier about the colors. So these are different characteristics. So with blue color, I decided to put specific qualifications that our role would have, our AI, let's say, yeah. Section headers, we can skip it. And the part that I asked you to pay attention to was action verbs. Yes, so you need to explicitly give it instruction commands. Do this, do not do this, etc. Then, obviously, for each colors, I have prepared qualities, constraints, structure elements, and other things, which I hope are quite obvious for you by now. Now, let's have a look at effective analysis. So research from MIT shows that basic prompting leads from 25 to 50% effective outcomes. But in case if you are using advanced prompting, you can get from 75 to 90%. Yeah, we can see it's given us improvement from 2 to 3 times at least. And again, so what key moments from this part that we need to learn? So first part, we need to define a specific role. We need to define the structure of our request, what we are, how we are setting up and what we want to get. And again, a very important thing, balance theory and practice. When I was preparing to the interview for this course, I have used this approach because sometimes the model could give you more theory or more code instead of theory, which is very important. So it would be balanced, so it would provide both of the both kinds of information for you. Now, about this thing, meta prompting. It's not related to the company Meta. You can also use your LLM to become your prompt engineer. Yeah, so I'm using this prompt for different models depending on my mood, but usually it is Claude that I'm using or ChatGPT. So I'm using this prompt as basic system prompt. We are going to this definition just in a tiny bit. So then it would help me to create prompts for other tasks. Yeah, so for example, in the 5 weeks ago, I have set up this prompt. Then on Monday of 14th of April, I said, okay, today we are working on scheme-gram and our models. Please prepare the prompt. So I would learn these topics. Then 1 week later, I have set up a question. Now, please prepare 2 towers model, etc., etc., etc. And it prepares a prompt that I'm putting from one AI into another one. Now, let's see. I mentioned the definition of system prompt. So what is the difference between system prompt and user prompt? System prompt, it is the prompt that is usually pre-rewritten by OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, etc. How the model is supposed to be acting like. And when we are setting up this long prompt with a lot of rows, etc., it's called system prompt. Basically, the very first prompt that you are giving it to your model. And user prompts are basically next messages that you are giving to our processing engine to deal with. And then in the end, we get some specific output for your queries based on your specific system prompt. Now, as you could see, in the beginning, I was using this Markdown format. I guess everyone is familiar with Markdowns, right? But there is also another format, which is XML format. And that question to you, what do you think would be more efficient in terms of tokens? Anyone has got an idea? Yes, Josh?
Probably XML.
Daniel?
Markdown.
Anyone can explain why?
I think XML probably just because of the tags associated with certain information. So it's maybe quicker to access that versus going through headings and subheadings and things like that.
So again, as research showed, Markdown is usually more efficient in terms of tokens because model does not care how you are setting it up because it's just looking for some specific, let's say, words next to each other, symbols, etc. Bess can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's pretty close to.
I was about to say depends on the tokenizer.
Yeah, but for example, Anthropic, they recommend to use XML approach. At least in their official guide, they said, yeah, our cloud models are working better with XML. So in case if in most of the models, XML is not efficient to tokenizers, yes, so why would we use it? Recently, I was working on some resume parsing project, and you know, like there are many sections in your resume, so I was doing just using regular expressions for parsing sections, and then it was really difficult to parse everything else. I have defined some structure, and I decided to give it to Gemini to deal with it. And it's very important to, in terms of we are using XML, it's the most interesting thing here that we can expect some specific output. So who knows how this data type is called? JSON, of course, JSON. Yes, so also we could provide prompt in JSON format. I believe it used to be a thing for OpenAI before. Maybe it is still a thing. At least when you are connecting through API, it's definitely expecting JSON from you. So here I was working on some additional information, and there is another interesting thing here. Text content. So when I'm passing some information there, text content, I'm expecting JSON out. Now let's see what's so interesting about this text content. So when I was working on some of the, for those who doesn't know, I was providing within the last couple of months lectures for students from schools on Python and computer science. So in case if you have your siblings, you can share the. Yeah, you can subscribe, yeah. Yeah, and I think I will probably post the video on the channel as well. So, so I was preparing the presentation, and in case 1-2 presentations, it's okay to spend 2-3 hours on it, but in case if it becomes like 10, 12, etc., it's getting really difficult and quite annoying. So I started thinking, how could I get the best efficiency from the preparation progress? So I have defined core slides, and I have put the data that I can replace there. So it's obviously starting from presentation slide, title, story, topics covered, title slides, other characteristics, code explanations, code snippets, etc. I was following pretty strict structure, and let's see how these can turn into this. So as you can see, within just one go, this approach, this presentation structure can turn into some pretty much defined presentation. So for those who are curious how I achieved it, I was using Make Platform. and developing some simple agent that would store the information in Google Sheet. And in case if I agree with this information, I would give it just true, okay, you can process. I was using Google Vertex AI, and then it would process the information twice, and then it would just pull the data from Google Sheets and put it into Google Slides.
Sorry, just a second.
Yeah.
So did you find also the pictures?
Sorry?
Did find pictures online and put it inside the slide?
Because
in the previous slide,
I have put the pictures manually. I had them. So basically, this is the picture that I was using on my oven. It was like few seconds in. And this, instead of this picture, it was using Mermaid code and random Mermaid code from Markdown.
Okay, so produce those pictures in Markdown and then it rendered them and put them inside the slide.
Yeah.
Okay, that's quite nice.
Yeah, and again, it was not working perfect from the first go, but within time, I will explain later how you can improve the efficiency. So, now the most interesting part of this presentation. So what is vibe coding? Now we live in that kind of... Yes, Felipe? Yeah, so now we live... Yeah, so now we live in that stage. When we come to our boss gives us task, and our boss knows that we are going to use AI to complete the task. We are sending a report to our boss, and our boss is using AI to read our report in few sentences, yeah? And this person that left, I believe every one of you must know him by now. I've seen many of you watching his videos. And he was, let's say, the author of the definition of vibe coding. Yeah, in February 2025, he presented this definition that usually means autonomously run your code without having any basic involvement into coding process. Now let's see examples what it can lead to. Yeah, and again, everything I'm going to tell you, starting from this slide, please use it with caution and be very careful when you are applying this advice. So, and again, as I mentioned before, our life now turned into using different AIs, trying to figure out which one works the best for our task. And as I mentioned before, let's have a look at some results that vibe coding can bring. For example, there is Bilaval Sidhu that has developed his vibe code, and he said that we could register at the address 127.0.0.1. So why did it happen? Because his agent system deployed this address to his Twitter, whatever he was using, Twitter or Threads. Yeah. There is also another popular example here, a person who was using Cursor to develop his project, ended up being attacked, etc., etc. There are lots of many other stories. How people were, let's say, running out of APIs. They were charged tens of thousands of dollars because they connected like OpenAI API and the model glitched and it was running for a couple of hours. Also, I have seen some person, let's not judge the person, who was using Cursor for some crypto startup, and the Cursor deployed .env file to GitHub. So, yeah, so tragic but still funny. So now let's talk about power of documentation. Let's try to figure out what PRD or ERD is. People who worked with like different complicated projects, they already know what this. Do you have a question? Okay. So to guide our LLM, to understand what we want from our project, we need to use these two files first of all. So PRD. It is a project requirement document that says what we need to do and why. there is simple explanation, simple example. So as a new user, I want to easily register an account, and in case if I'm accepted, I want to provide valid email and passwords, and account would be created within like some specific time. And ERD, it is how we are doing it. Here is an example of simple database for user and order, how they could be connected with each other. As we can see, it would be using connection, just primary and foreign key. Now, let's talk about cursor. So what is cursor? So many of you could have heard about this thing, such as cursor rules. We are going through this just in a few seconds, so just let me remind you. So a lot of us are using VS Code. I can see it's even open right now. And cursor is just basically a fork of VS Code, but with some little improvement. So what is cursor rules? So besides those two files that I have mentioned before, ERD and PRD, people are also using cursor rules to define the things, the system prompt that we were talking about before. Yeah, so we are mentioning core expertise, what we want the model to do, what we don't want the model to ever do, the structure, the strategies, the outcome. Yeah, so I have provided 3 columns style. Again, never use it. I'm just using it for presentation purposes. But we would, in the end up with these 3 files in the core folder. 1 week ago, there was some little change. Cursor provided a new version 0.5 that brings some improvements into the way it works. Now it understands better the code base, what front-end, back-end tests, etc. is. Reduces token usage. Yes, so usually it tried to parse your entire project in once, and just imagine passing the entire project, for example, if you have like 200,000 tokens. So for example, project with 8,000 lines of code would cost you at least 50,000 tokens. Another thing, now it has background agents and multi-file operations. So now you can, it does not block your editor interface. If you try to work in Cursor, you see if it works with files, it's providing one file, another one. Now it can do work with them simultaneously. And as I mentioned before, it's now has smart context loading because if you remember 2 weeks ago, I was providing the script how to get the structure of your project. Now you don't need to define the structure. I'm still doing it. It's still efficient. But now Cursor can build this structure and just understand it on its own. So now let's see what happened to this cursor rules file. Again, this was the structure that we were using before. Now it is going to move to inner folder rules, and it would have format.mdc. Now let's see what would be new structure. So in case if we work with project, we have backend and frontend. So now we would create .cursor folder rules and some specific rules that we want our cursor module to work with. And now let's try to figure out what MDC file is. Yes, so it's obviously Markdown cursor. So the first thing that we need to do is to define header. Usually, again, it's using YAML format. We are just defining the rule. We are defining what files or type of files to apply. You can define description. There is priority here. I'm just going to talk about what priority is in a couple of seconds, and some text, what it's going to work with. Second part is obviously going to be Markdown structure, Markdown body that explains what we are going to do. And another one is just proper instruction for the context. Again, pretty much similar thing that we were talking about when we were talking about system prompts. Now, there are a few advices how to use efficiently these MDC files. Again, for each part of a project define different files. Again, for Python, in case if you're using it, define style, testing for front-end, define how to work with styling for front-end and with components. Again, I know this is basics, but please don't be vague in your request. Because code should be good, you may understand what code should be good, but the model does not understand what code should be good or how to make it readable, etc. And this is very important thing. So just today on the way to office, I was reading an interesting article that in case if you have different functions in one file, let's say that start with the same symbols, let's say it would be calc. Yeah, like calculate something. Without having docstring, the model would spend more tokens on understanding what your function does. I don't know if it's true. I did not test it yet, but it's very interesting assumption. Also, again, same advice as for using system prompts. And again, the most important thing is avoiding overlapping. So to avoid overlapping, we would use like different files and different priorities. So let's have a look at few files. For example, for Python type hints. So again, we would say what files we are applying to. We are saying use type hints throughout to improve code quality. I really like to use like this typing module. It allows us to track our typing. People who came from, let's say, such languages like C++, Java, etc., they know that you always need to define type of your variable that you are working with. In Python, it is not as familiar, not as common, sorry, but recently I can see in functions or expectations of output, people are using it. And another example, in case if we are using React for front end, we are again defining what how we are going to work with CSS files, what libraries we are going to avoid, etc. So again, clear scope, specific instructions, domain specific, clear constraints. And now let's see how Cursor is even knowing how to work, how this matching engine works. So let's assume we are working with our API in file api.py. So to get matching process, we need to, like what Cursor does. It checks global patterns and rule priorities. So then it's jumping to Python style and API guidelines. Are they matching the expectations? We remember, yeah? We define this .py file. Then, okay, checking Python style, it's matching. API guidelines, it's matching. Other MDC files are no match, then it's keeping it. And there is very important thing about priorities. It's quite useful to set up priorities. So you would, let's say, go to Python styles over API guidelines, because it would not make any sense to write code for API and then apply Python style guidance. Does it make sense? Yeah. And there are, again, some common global patterns that you can have a look at. You can develop your own. It's working pretty similar way how we are working with gitignore or with regular expressions. Yeah, so for example, we are defining all Python files. We are defining all JavaScript files in API folder and children folders. We are using TypeScript files, and we are not including node models. Yeah, you know, they can be like hundreds of megabytes to deal with. Now, things that can go, again, wrong in case if you are misusing these patterns. So, again, please be specific. The next thing, in terms of instructions, we can see for style, we can use tabs for indentation, for general spaces for indentations. You need to be careful what you are using and in types of priorities. Another thing, again, vague instructions, please be careful with it. And the most important thing, people are forgetting to add rules for testing. So I personally, when I'm working on projects here, I did not write down proper unit tests because I was using this mini test in main function for each file that I'm developing. But in case if you want your code to be run, you need to run through by AI. I'm sorry. You need to make sure that it's properly tested. Once it does not pass test, model can get back to your code and refine it. Another important thing, sometimes when you change your rules in your MDC files, the model does not understand the changes, so you would need to come back and to have a look at, you would need to come back to your application and restart it again, and then cursor would pull it again. And there is another thing, sometimes cursor is glitching when it starts hallucinating after overloading context windows, so please be careful with the model that you are using. There are few more things, just one more thing basically left, what I would like to show you. Again, let's assume we are working on a RAG project, and I defined a few components. Yeah, so core one, data processing one, and deployment one. Again, you don't have to be as detailed, but I prefer everything to be quite detailedly defined. And again, decomposition allows us to work on simple tasks at once. So again, this is the kind of structure that it would be looking like. Yeah, and again, in case if we are working with some elements of retriever, we would just go through two rules that we can apply for retriever, and then guidance would use two-tower model. And these are examples of these files that could be used. And what I was going to show you, as you can see, text and priority. These are most important things. So we can see, first of all, we are running what? Document chunking standards. Then we have what? Running RAG retriever components. And then the third, system architecture. Summary. I know you are all quite tired after this 45-minute speech. So again, let's talk about key takeaways. So the first one that I have defined here, that prompt is engineering. And I would extend it that writing a prompt is some kind of art. Within the last couple of years, writing prompts came to another level, so please put effort. You can't just throw some random phrase and expecting model to understand you. We can't understand each other, so we cannot expect machines to understand what we are trying to say. Another thing, context is obviously our blueprint. Without context, our model will take more tokens, will take more time to understand. Deeper reasoning, again, some models can take 2, 3, 10, 15 times longer to understand, to process your request. But again, please use these things in case if you want to go through long, complex tasks. And another important one, rule of 3E. Integrate, iterate, innovate. So the more you experiment here, like again, I will refer to Bess yesterday's phrase about prompting techniques that we can load a million different prompts and to see what's working better for us. Obviously, unfortunately, we don't have this availability to experiment with million prompts, but we are still capable of doing so manually. So we can, again, try different approaches to see what models work best for us, what techniques use best for us. And there is another summary. And again, while preparing to this presentation, I burned 400,000 tokens on Gemini. I ran out 7 times, at least those that I counted, on Claude Sonnet. Yeah, I was trying to go back in Clonate and refine, but at some moments it was like, no, bro, you're gonna use another chat. ChatGPT turned out surprising for me. It's working pretty well with SVG graphics and refining it. Absolutely terrible with creating beautiful images, but absolutely brilliant with refining issues. And I spent 3 hours trying to make AIs to solve the puzzle that I was showing you in the beginning of the presentation. So yeah, I'm going to leave the presentation with all of the resources, with all of the prompts, so you can try to play around, maybe improve, maybe learn something new, come up and say, oh, I tried this, we can improve it and use it that way. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, in case if anyone has got any questions, I would like to discuss it.
Maybe a quick one. When do you like build all of your prompts? Like, do you always start at the beginning of the project? Because often what I see myself doing is that I sort of start with something very simple, but then I later maybe realize I should have started with something more elaborate. What's like your workflow?
Yeah, so starting in the beginning of the project, so the first thing, as I mentioned before, ERD, PRD, you start with these things. Then, or you mean the project system project?
Maybe a bit of both. Like,
Okay.
do you do like relationships or like cursor rules? I guess you could like start by writing like main line before building no and.
Yeah, so before building the project, you need to understand what you expected from the project. Yeah, so let's say let's take example from the very first week. Yeah, so we were working on what? Schemagram and Cibo. So I'm coming to my meta prompt. Let me quickly. Where was it? Right here. Yeah, so I'm coming to this prompt and I'm saying, I want to work on this. Please generate prompt for me on this. And then I have system prompt for like my entire project. And then starting from here, I'm already preparing like these MDC files, prompts, etc. So it's already defined there. And then it understands the structure that you would need to define, what files you would need to define. So this is a very interesting question. So before defining MDC files, it's very important to define PRD and ERD files. And then after you define the structure for your MDC files, then you update ERD files saying, okay, I would use these files because it may change. Then rules, and then ERD again in case if you change the structure. Yeah, Malo, you had a question?
I was just going to say for the cursor rule stuff, is this kind of like evolving, or are the things that cursor put out as like best practices? And
yeah, so I have left the link, I believe. Yeah, cursor rules template. There are people like developing these rules for like different projects. Usually it's very interesting for me. They're trying to do it for front-end part or like web dev based projects. And there are a lot of rules template there. You can, again, use either the templates that are already like were used before by many people, or you can try to make, to refer to a system prompt and ask your LLM to define these rules for you. Any more questions?
Thank you so much, Yurii. Are you going to share the slides on Discord?
Yeah, I will do it now, yeah.